And do you feel like when we see these incidents and the bravado and these other boxers losing their rag, that they need somebody like you to advise them and tell them to calm down? We saw it most recently with David Haye and Derek Chisora, not just going blow for blow in the ring, but outside it in a press conference too. Is that bad for boxing, or does it sell tickets?
It can sell tickets, but it's bad for the fighters because they can be arrested. Because once it's outside the ring, it takes on a life of its own. And then you get a couple of police involved, you get a couple of juries involved, you get a judge involved, you get some lawyers involved, and then that's problems.
And you feel...
And then you have to fight to pay your legal bills.
Do you feel like you can still have a role in boxing though, just telling them what the future holds and the damage that an incident like that could do to a boxer's career?
That's just not my role, telling somebody what to do. If somebody needs some advice, I can just tell them what I know in boxing. I can tell them what not to do. You know, telling somebody what to do, that's pretty difficult because I don't know what to do. That's why I got in those problems, so I can tell them what not to do to get them from getting into the problems that I got into.
No doubt some of this will come up in your show, The Undisputed Truth,
Absolutely.
in Dubai. What about idols, in or outside of boxing? Who did you worship, either growing up or now?
Oh, I loved Ali, Roberto Duran, and they were like my gods.
Sugar Ray Leonard?
Him too, yeah, all those guys. They were just, I had an awesome collection of fighters when I was a young kid watching them fight. It's just an awesome collection of fighters that were tremendous fighters.
What was it about them? Was it just what they did in the ring, or was it their personalities outside of it?
They didn't allow themselves to be discouraged. Even if they lost fights, they would come back and fight like they beat the guy the first time they fought rather than lose. You know, and it's all about not giving up in life, refusing to lose. Not necessarily from a physical loss, forget refusing to lose spiritually and emotionally. That's where the real challenge is at. Anybody could beat somebody up. I have a 2-year-old son. He could beat somebody up. He could beat up anybody. But what's going to happen when somebody start beating him up? You know, whether he's going to fold up or he's going to fight back. And that's what life's about. It's not giving up because you have a bad day at the office. If you have a bad day at the office and have a bad interview and I start yelling at you, screaming at you.
Please don't.
You know, or you'll say, hey, I give up, guy. I almost got killed today by Mike Tyson. No, that's not what you do. You just go and you discuss and you do your next interview.
So we'll talk about family in just a moment, but let's focus on maybe an idol or a hero outside of the world of boxing. Do guys like Mandela or Barack Obama in any way inspire you?
Absolutely. All those guys' accomplishments, they're worldly inspiring. You know what I mean? The first black president of the United States, that's unconceivable. That's almost unconceivable. Just to think that his ancestors were slaves and now he's the president of the United States. It's just almost inconceivable. You think Mr. Mandela was in prison for 27 years and then he becomes the president. All that stuff is very inspiring. There's no doubt about that.
You've got a big family as well to raise, and you are their role model, you're the hero and the inspiration. What kind of father are you?
Hey, I don't know if I'm the inspiration and their role models. You know, I'm just there for them. You know, I'm there for them. I don't try to be no role model. I'm just there to support them in everything they do. And I always tell them about the pitfalls that I get involved in. There's nobody, we don't cut cheese in the house. Everybody tells the truth. Everybody knows what's going on. I get kids, most of my kids, my older kids, they're in college. In some kind of Ivy League private school. I've never had the chance to go to a school like that. You know, I'm a 9th grade dropout from a really bad school. You know, so if I'm a 9th grade dropout, I'm really like a 3rd grade dropout because the school is really bad. So I never had the privileges that my kids do to go to Georgetown and to go to all the Parsons, all these Ivy League schools. And I'm just glad they don't have to live the life that I live. You know, because they'd be just as out of water in my life as I would be in their life. And I'm just there to support them in everything they want to do in life.
Did you ever see yourself as having a family, being a father?
No, I didn't want that when I was younger. I just wanted to be a fighter. All my life, that's all I ever wanted to be, was a fighter. And then I realized you can only fight for a certain increment of time in your life. And then there's other things in your life that you have to accomplish.
As a father, and the Klitschko's parents both say this, they wouldn't want their sons to either fight each other, and sometimes the parents don't even want their kids to be in the ring. So would you approve if your children come to you and say, Dad, I want to be a boxer just like you?
My kids would never want to do that. My kids haven't come from that world where my kids are pretty privileged kids, fortunately, and I don't know if that means anything, but they can't fight. There's no reason for them to fight because I took all the punches for them. There's no reason for them to get in the ring.
Now, one of your other comforts, along with kids or passions or loves, is pigeons, of course. How did that come about?
I used to have pigeons when I was a little kid, 10 years old. That's more of a cultural thing, more than for pets. That's just what we do where I come from.
But you like the loyalty that an animal like that brings. I've read before you said...
All of them are not loyal. All of them are not loyal. So the ones that are loyal, you do like them more than the ones that are not, I guess.
Do you feel like something like a pigeon, though, that can go away with a message and come back and you can control it, allows you to interact more maybe than the wacky world around an animal like a pigeon, where you tell someone to do something and they might not agree with you, and there's obviously lots of hangers-on around you in your pomp as well, and there's almost a peace
You're
and
talking about a
clarity.
control freak. No, I'm not a control freak. Well, I guess to a certain degree we all are, but I'm not really. I don't, I'm living my life pretty simple. I'm not the guy with hundreds of millions of dollars and cars and houses and boats and planes all over the world. I mean, it's pretty simple with my family now. We don't live that kind of life anymore.
Would you call yourself happy?
I'm pretty content with my life. I don't know what happiness is, it's just a word somebody made up. And I'm just really content. I wouldn't want anything else.
Now, you've got the show, The Undisputed Truth, which is going all around the world. You've been in movies and you've been in the boxing ring. What's next for Mike Tyson?
We're going to start producing our own movies and plays and shows, and we're going to be behind the camera and behind the stage, and we're just going to produce things now.
So you like...
We have a production company in Tyrannic, and that's what we're going to start producing shows from there, television, movies, theater.
And are they going to move maybe away from stories related to you, your life and your career, and just be their own entities of fiction, perhaps?
Now, that'd be a lot like Neil Simon, Neil Simon. They'd be about us or about people that we know, but we won't use their names.
Oh, interesting. And when would you think possibly a first production would come out along those lines? Are you looking to next year?
Yeah, middle of next year.
Now, a couple of questions about the look. The tattoo, first of all, you can't miss it. What does that signify and how did it come about?
It's just something I got about 5-7 years ago. Just a Maui symbol, tribal symbol.
And did you design it?
Partly, no, but most of my friend did.
And do you like the fact that people don't just know you and your career, but they know you visually as well? Everybody thinks Mike Tyson, one of the first 3 or 4 words that comes to mind is tattoo.
I don't know, I guess so. I didn't think of it that way when I first got it, but I guess you're right.
And have you kind of mellowed with the rest of the look? Because again, in your pomp, there were capes and crowns and orbs. Have you kind of decided to dress down now?
I was a little kid, that's a long time ago, yeah.
So at what point do you feel you did grow up and realise that you couldn't just act like you were for your whole
I
life?
still need to grow up more, but it's just a day-by-day experience, whole process.
So what is your biggest regret?
I don't think I really have any regrets when I look at it, no.
And you look at the darker side, whether it's the conviction or, of course, the very tragic death of your daughter, and has that changed you as a person?
I don't know. I'm sure it did. Like I said, I don't allow it to imprison me. I also allow me to live my life in any kind of different way. I always live from a positive perspective of life, and I just don't allow things to hold me back or imprison me in my past.
And just a final couple of questions. Would you ever consider going back in the boxing ring for an exhibition?
That's not even in my heart no more. I don't know. I wasn't a good person. I didn't like the person I was when I was fighting. So I like this person now, so I don't think I'll ever do that again.
If you could fight anybody in or outside of boxing that wasn't in your generation, who would it be and why?
I did everything I had to do with my generation. There's nothing else I want out of boxing. Boxing can't give me anything anymore. I can't get that high that I used to get from boxing. It's all about me doing this stuff now, living with my family, taking care of my kids. Other than that, boxing doesn't even mean anything anymore.
If though you could be in the ring with an Ali or so on.
That stuff is history, man. float my boat anymore. I don't want to prove how tough I am anymore.
What do you do to relax, whether in or outside of sport these days? Do you follow basketball or English soccer?
I spend time with my family. That's what life's all about. You know, believe it or not, we may not believe it, but it's almost over. We're gonna die very shortly. All of us, you know, it doesn't feel like that we're gonna be old very quick, else we're gonna get in a bad accident and get sick. But it's almost over for us. And so the little time I do have, I like to spend time with my wife and my children.
Yeah, look ahead to the future.
Well, only thing I can do is just live in the moment, and hopefully the future coming, I can meet the future and not foretell it.
Do you feel enough people know about this clearly optimistic attitude you've got, a new lust for life, or are you still stereotyped by your past?
I don't know. I never thought about that being stereotyped. I just know how I look at myself, and that's the main objective of how I feel myself to be and how I see myself to be. You know, anything else is just abstract, but it's just all about me, and it's all an inside job.
And then a few quick questions on the Middle East specifically. Are you hopeful that your visit, and we've had David Hay out here and one or two other boxers in the past, Manny Pacquiao did a charity event about a year ago, are you hopeful that being such a big name from the world of boxing, your visit won't just allow people to learn a bit more about you, but will help the sport evolve in this region? Because there's still been, even though Amir Khan has talked about it, at actually the same venue as your show, no major boxing fight anywhere in the Middle East.
Well, I'm sure that will happen, but my objective here is just to